So let's just jump right in. Have you ever stopped to think about the role of faith in the stuff we watch and listen to every day? You know, the art, the music, the movies that kind of shape our whole world? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down a really interesting argument from a specific source, one that's calling for a major creative and spiritual shakeup in modern culture.
And just so you know where we're getting this from, everything we're about to talk about comes from one place. It's episode 200 of the Heal the World Network Daily Gazette. And that whole episode, it's all about what they call art, media, and cultural redemption.
Okay, this quote right here, it really nails the core idea. Every generation needs a new song. Now, they're not talking about changing the gospel or the core message. It's about finding fresh, new, vibrant ways to talk about an eternal truth. So you'll see, this is a call for a creative refresh, not a theological one.
All right, first up, a call for a new song. This is really the central theme here. The whole argument kicks off with this really passionate plea for a brand new wave of creativity in our culture.
Now, before we get too deep into this, there's a term they use that we've got to get straight: kingdom creatives. And look, this isn't just about, paintings of scenes from the Bible or something. The way the Gazette uses it, it's for any artist, musician, filmmaker, anyone telling stories from a faith-based perspective, but with the goal of actually influencing mainstream culture.
So why the big push? Why does the source think these kingdom creatives need to step up right now? Well, it's because they're being presented as the answer to what the Gazette sees as a pretty big cultural problem.
This right here, this lays out the central conflict perfectly. On one hand, you've got these massive, powerful voices in media and entertainment, the ones really shaping our culture, mostly from a secular point of view. But then on the other side, the source claims the church is kind of pulled back. Either they've gone quiet, or they're just copying what's already popular, instead of leading with something totally new and original.
Okay, so what's the fallout from all this, according to the Gazette? They list a few big things. For starters, you get these ungodly narratives defining what's beautiful, what love is, what our purpose is. Then you have young people being shaped more by their media feeds than by Scripture. And all of this, the argument goes, makes creatives of faith just retreat. It leads to the church making copycat art instead of something truly prophetic. And the end result? God's glory is just missing from the very spaces that shape our imagination.
But what's the root cause of this whole problem? Well, according to the Gazette, it all comes down to two completely different views on what art is even for.
And wow, what a contrast it is. On one side, you have what the source calls the world's view. Basically, art is all about self-expression. Its value? It's all about how many likes it gets, how culturally relevant it is, how much money it makes. But then there's God's view, and here creative gifts are seen as sacred instruments. The goal isn't just look at me, it's about channeling God's presence, truth, and even healing into the world. It's a totally different ballgame, a completely different mission.
Okay, so the Gazette doesn't just point out the problem and leave it there. Nope, it actually proposes a solution. It lays out a kind of blueprint for creatives, and its foundation is pulled straight from Scripture.
So what's in this blueprint? Well, it's built on three big ideas, three pillars from the Bible. First up is courage. They pull this from Jeremiah, right? The prophet who had to speak hard truths to people who really didn't want to hear it. Next is responsibility. This comes from Proverbs, which is all about the wisdom that what you create, your words, your art, it has real power. It can bring life or it can bring harm. And last but not least, restoration, which is based on Deuteronomy, a book that's all about offering a way back, a path to renewal and blessing.
And this verse right here from Deuteronomy, this is the anchor for that whole restoration idea. The source points to this metaphor, a circumcised heart, a renewed heart, to argue that our entire culture can be creatively redeemed, that art can actually carry a message of hope that changes things from the inside out.
All right, so we've got the problem, we've got the philosophical divide, and we've got the spiritual foundation. Now the Gazette shifts gears. It goes from the why to the how, with a super direct and practical call to action.
And they break it down into 5 really simple things anyone can do. Number 1, create. Just make something this week and offer it up. 2, consume. Go out and engage with at least one piece of what they call kingdom-centered creative work. 3, encourage. You know a creative person? Support them. Let them know they're doing good work. 4, pray. Ask for God to raise up a new army of anointed artists and storytellers. And finally, number 5, discern. Ask yourself, how can I use my own gifts? See, the whole point is to kickstart a movement from the ground up, starting with you.
So, what's the big deal? Why does any of this actually matter?
Well, according to the Gazette, the stakes are huge. They argue that this kind of creative shift could have a massive impact on everything. We're talking morality, producing a culture that actually brings healing. We're talking health, restoring hope and emotional wholeness, even finances, building ethical and sustainable creative economies. The endgame here is, well, it's not small. It's about redirecting the entire cultural narrative of a nation.
And that brings us to the final, really big question. It's at the heart of the Gazette's whole argument, for sure. But honestly, it applies to every single one of us. No matter what you believe, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What is the connection between the art we binge watch and listen to, the culture that springs up around it, and the actual values that we end up living our lives by?